Hi everybody. The topic of the day today is Carménère, which is a red grape originating from France. Now, if you are a big wine lover, you probably associate this grape much more with Chile, which is where it is nowadays mostly planted. But the origins of this grape Carménère are the Médoc region of Bordeaux in France, and that's where you would have seen a lot of it planted back in the 1700s. But then what happened was, obviously, Phylloxera hit Europe in the 1800s, and Carménère was one of the grapes that was basically wiped out by that. It is also a grape that can suffer from other kind of issues like powdery mildew, so it is a grape that thrives much better in moderate to warm climates than cold, wet climates anyway. So it is a good one to have in Chile. So nowadays, the big place in the world where you can get Carménère is Chile, and there's about 10,000 hectares of Carménère. Actually more than that, to be honest with you. There's more than 10,000 hectares of Carménère planted in Chile. So that is why it's kind of known as the grape that people associate with Chile, as well as Merlot as well. In fact, funnily enough, it wasn't until the late 1990s that people even knew that a lot of the grapes planted in Chile were in fact Carménère, because up until about 1998, that grape was misidentified as Merlot. So all those French people who in the 1800s moved over to Chile, all the European immigrants, when they brought Carménère over, people thought it was Merlot. So same thing happened in Italy. In Italy, there is a lot of Carménère, but people originally thought it was Cabernet Franc. So it is potentially misidentified if, people don't actually check, which is what happened in these two countries, which is crazy, I know. But it's because it does have a lot of qualities that are similar to Cabernet Franc, because Cabernet Franc is in fact one of the parent grapes of Carménère. So that's just to give you a bit of a background on it. But yeah, nowadays it's mainly in Chile, but you can get it, small quantities of it actually in America, in Washington state, and those wines tend to be quite expensive because they tend to be made by boutique wineries in Washington state in America, where they are producing really high quality. But talking a bit more generally about the grape wherever it's grown, as I say, it is it isn't that easy to grow because it can suffer from things like powdery mildew. So it does need to be in a moderate to warm climate. That's the first thing. It's a late ripener, and you have to be careful sometimes with Carménère because it tends to ripen with quite high sugar levels, which can make a very alcoholic wine, and then it becomes a bit imbalanced and the alcohol can be a bit too much and the whole wine can be a little bit out of balance. But in the best examples of Carménère, what you will get is kind of medium body, medium tannin, red fruit notes like cherry and raspberry. You might get a bit of smoke, a bit of baking spice flavour like cinnamon, and sometimes you might even get some green notes like green bell pepper or jalapeno. You have to be careful with Carménère if you are growing it in a slightly colder climate, because in any cold or wet climates, sometimes Carménère will have some kind of, they're kind of like underripe notes that can be a bit austere. So, you might get those kind of flavours of green notes like bell pepper or grassy notes, and they might actually not be that pleasant. So it's all about getting the ripeness balanced, because you want the grapes to be ripe, but not too ripe that there's too much alcohol in the finished wine. So it's very complicated. But yeah, I mean, I just think if you've never heard of this grape, it's certainly one that if you're learning about it, you should always think about it in association with Chile, because that's where it is most broadly planted, and there's a really good range of quality of Carménère in Chile. So you can get a really affordable Chilean Carménère, but then you can pay a bit more to get a better, kind of more premium wine with a bit more definition of flavour from Chile. In markets like Italy and France, those wines, it's hard to find single varietal Carménère really. They would tend to be in blends. So I wouldn't really recommend, if you're trying to just really get to grips with this grape and really kind of taste it and in its purest form, I wouldn't recommend buying one from France, because apart from anything else, there's so little Carménère planted in France these days anyway, you'd struggle to find it. And in Italy, it tends to always be in blends. So yeah, Chile is the one for Carménère. And if you really want to, you know, spend a bit more cash and try something really unique, you could look for wineries in Washington State, where you could get a really quite high quality wine from a boutique winery, because in Washington State, it's only really the boutique wineries that produce it. Anyway, if you've tried any one of those really super premium Carménères, whether it's from, whether it's from Chile or Washington State or wherever it is from, I'd love to hear about it, because I have tried Carménère, but I've never tried a really high quality one. So just let me know. Cheers.